Imagine turning on your computer and finding that all your files have been taken hostage. You have just 3 days to pay a ransom or the data dies. Computer security consultants are warning that's a scenario that more Australians could face in the coming months. Hackers are having considerable success overseas with a piece of malicious software called CryptoLocker. And already small businesses and universities here have been targets, as James Glenday reports.
A lot of victims paying a reasonably small amount of money equals a large amount for the criminal.
Some of our staff were really quite concerned when they saw that pop-up message on their screen about what steps that they should take next.
Late last month, as the semester came to a close, the Queensland University of Technology realised it had a problem when some staff began complaining they couldn't open any files on their computers.
It was a very isolated case to begin with, but then when more reports started coming in, and they were obviously quite similar, we knew that this was a particularly nasty variant of Trojan malware.
QUT's Director of IT Services, Chris Bridge, immediately put his best people on the case. They were relieved to find just 18 computers in the university's enormous network had been directly infected, but the impact was much worse than expected.
The virus itself wasn't moving. Why it was a nasty one is because when it ran, it not only encrypted all of your local files, but it encrypted all of the shared drives that it could see attached to your PC. From a very small number of users, we had about probably about 230,000 files that were encrypted across our network.
The university had been hit by CryptoLocker, a type of malicious software called ransomware, and even though it has a name fit for a B-grade Hollywood thriller, it's already caused enormous headaches throughout the US and the UK.
This particular Trojan, this malware, is nasty and it's sophisticated and it's going to try to encrypt anything it can reach on the network.
This is really bad, isn't it?
This is definitely the worst I've seen in 13 years in the industry. It's absolutely terrible.
So what we're actually seeing here, this shows you the coverage of where we're seeing the infections of CryptoLocker at the moment. So
computer security companies such as Symantec have been monitoring the attacks across the globe. Director of Technology Sean Capelke says Australians should brace themselves over the next 6 to 12 months.
In Australia, we've seen around about a 2% infection rate, which is sort of low at the moment, but growing quite rapidly. We see an infection rate, much higher in places like the US and throughout Europe, and they're always a good early indicator for us.
CryptoLocker is spread by cyber criminals operating out of places like Eastern Europe. They send the program to millions of people, usually through an email attachment. The program is often disguised as a bank statement, a tax return, or an alert from a courier service. And if it's opened, it begins silently encrypting all the files it can see. Australian government agencies have already issued a high-level warning.
The files cannot be accessed unless a key is provided or used to decrypt the files. When somebody is infected with CryptoLocker, they will receive an alert from the malicious software saying they need to pay a ransom in order to have those files decrypted.
The way I describe it is RAM raids used to be done with Commodores, and then criminals started stealing WRXs to ram into storefronts. CryptoLocker is just a different piece of software that happens to be popular at the moment that does exactly the same thing as previous ransomware has done.
But it's the so-called business model of CryptoLocker that has computer security consultants like Sean Capelke concerned. The program gives users just 72 hours to cough up the cash before it destroys the only key that can unlock the data. CryptoLocker ransoms are also modest and often cheaper than the cost of getting help.
If they penetrate someone's machine, lock up all, mums and dads' family photos of the kids, that's something that's emotionally we're attached to and we want. So these ransomwares are just demanding small fees like $30 or $100 to unencrypt the files. So it's very effective and it makes the cyber gangs a lot of money.
There is no guarantee that the key will decrypt the files, and that paying ransoms encourages more of this malicious activity on the internet. But I can understand the temptation of paying the ransom given it is set at a fairly low level, and I believe that this is one of the clever strategies of these cyber criminals.
The criminals have targeted a Sydney council, real estate agents, a medical centre and several university students. Closing them down is near to impossible because they operate out of many different countries. The founder of the AFP's high-tech crime centre, Alastair McGibbon, warns if people don't back up their data on secure servers and update their operating systems regularly, then they may face a tough choice.
Changing technology is easy, changing our behaviours online is particularly tough. As a former police officer, I'd say that my advice is never to deal with a criminal. They're a criminal after all. How can you trust them? But I can actually understand why small businesses in particular, in this case, actually do pay the ransom.
The Queensland University of Technology has enormous backup servers and picked up the problem early, so it didn't even consider paying the ransom. However, 3 weeks later, the IT department is still counting the cost.
It was incredibly inconvenient. It's taken approximately 10 days to actually do the recovery of that many individual files. So, that's quite an impact to the university.
There's no doubt that ransomware is here to stay, and we will see more of it in years to come.
James Glenday reporting there.